Hey guys, it's Frances, and I have a review and demo for you using some stencils that I was sent. I was contacted by Cosedora, and she has a YouTube channel also, and she makes her own stencils. She sent me two sets, and one is a 600 reusable, and there's 16 different shapes, and that's $8.99 on Amazon. And the other set is 433, and it's swirls, and it's 23 different shapes. It's also on Amazon. I'll link them below, as I always do for products. It's got instructions on the back of it. It's also got one of those scanners that you can scan, and it will take you and give you more information of designs that you can do. And you can check out her YouTube channel, which I will also link below, and that will also give you some more ways that you could use these particular ones. I'm going to open them up and show you all the designs. Here's the first one, and it's the 601. And like I said, they are reusable, and I'll be testing that out for you a little later in the video. And here's an individual look at the designs. So it's got some chevrons as well as some zigzags and some different types of French tips, chevron tips, some wavy patterns as well. Different, like I said, there's straight lines, but there's also different styles of straight lines, different thicknesses of straight lines, and different angles of the French tips, as well as different shapes of chevrons. So you can mix and match and play with those different types of chevrons and angles, and they will work together pretty well. Here's the second set, and this is the 433, and these are mostly swirls. These are a little harder to see, so I'm going to zoom you in a little bit, and then I kind of angle it towards my light to give you an idea. But a lot of these are full nail images, and you can see there's swirls and swirly hearts of different shapes and sizes. And what's nice with this is you could use them either the inside, you could pull out the inside of the stencil and use that and paint around that, or you could take out the middle part of the stencil, put that whole big thing on your nail, and then just paint whatever the relief is. I know it sounds very confusing, and I can picture it in my head, and I will probably be doing another video where I use the swirls. In this video, I'm going to be using the first set. But there are, like I said, different sizes of swirls and different types of swirls. There's like a little starburst pattern as well, and a couple different chevrons on this one. And that set right there it almost looks like Middle Eastern kind of wavy pattern. But that is a look at the designs that are in the second set that she sent me. There are actually 3 other sets on Amazon as well. They are shipping out from the United States, so if you do live in the US, you will definitely get them in a timely fashion. I think it took less than a week to get to me. And some of them are add-ons, and some of them are prime. And the other 3 sets look like kind of a mix and match of these 2 sets. So for my design, I'm starting out with 2 coats of OPI's Alpine Snow. I also have a fast dry top coat on top. One thing that's really, really important from watching other videos where they use stencils, because actually this is my first time using real deal stencils. I've used those really cheap French manicure stencils before, the kind of ones you get at Walgreens, and it was disastrous. So this is my first real attempt with like real deal good stencils. But I do know after watching all the videos that you do need to let your base coat dry very, very well. And these are very, very sticky. So you definitely need to use a fast dry top coat and let it dry for a while. I think mine I put on the white, and then I went and had some lunch. So it was 2 or 3 hours later. You don't have to wait that long, but you definitely need to wait until they're really dry. Otherwise, you risk the chance of when you pull up the stencil, pulling up your base coat as well. I also am not using a peel off base coat, just because I've seen some people have some issues with the peel off base coat and using stencils. As you can see, they're pretty easy to place. They are very sticky. In fact, when you get it on your nail, it kind of wants to stick there, but you can pick it up and move it to where you need it to be, and you'll see that in a minute because I changed my mind on something. So I'm going to go through this first set and use something I believe from every one of the pages of stencils, and I like that it's different colored, the stencils, so you kind of have an idea which one to use, because some of the designs are a little bit similar, so at first glance it might be harder to see which one you used. And as I'm going through and doing this voiceover, I'm thinking of some of the things kind of in hindsight that I might do a little differently next time, or that I might keep. And one of the things I'm thinking of is these tweezers. They probably weren't the best for the task. It's really not that hard to remove these stencils from it's kind of a shiny paper, like a coated paper that they're on. And it's really not that hard to remove them, but the tweezers that I'm using, I like the fact that they're angled, but they're a little bit on the thicker side. So they're not very thin. It was a little harder to get up on the edges. But I do like that they're angled because it makes it easier to see what I'm doing. But I probably in hindsight would use a different set of tweezers, and you'll see again later why a different set of tweezers might have been a little bit better to use. And then I decided that this middle nail is not what I wanted. I want a space in the middle of the nail. And as I was looking at the stencils and thinking about how I was going to apply the polish, realized that this was not the direction that it needed to go. So as you can see, the stencils are they stick, they adhere very well, but they are easy enough to remove if you don't like where you've placed them. And again, you have to be really, really sure that your base color is completely dry. Completely dry. It can't even express to you enough how many videos I've seen where people hadn't let their base coat completely dry and it pulled up that bottom. It's just kind of a nightmare. So I definitely was doing anything to avoid that. I did overlap the stencil a little bit on this middle nail, those two pieces together. So that placement wasn't the best, but again, that was user error and had nothing to do with the stencils. And I'm going to try and separate them and realize it's not a big deal. Oh, another thing, make sure that you're pressing down on the edges of your nail so that you don't, especially if you have a nice decent C curve like I do to your nail, you don't want to make sure that none of the polish when you brush it on top is going to get underneath something that's lifted at the corner. So I'm making desperately sure that I have pushed those down on the edges of my nails. And for the pinky, I'm going to be using these thicker stripes. I've left my thumb empty because I'm going to be testing the reusability of the stencils. So I'm going to reuse one of the designs on my thumb. Some things that I would do differently for reusability is I would make sure that I have maybe a silicone mat, a very clean silicone mat, or a good space on that coated paper to put the stencils back down after I've removed them. I was not good about that. And you'll see what happens at the end there. So I'm going to start out with this green color. And this is one of the colors I got at the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to be placing that on my index finger. And one thing I will say too is you need to add a generous coat of whatever color on top, especially if the color is not exactly that opaque. This color is fairly opaque, but you see I added on pretty thickly, more thick a coat than you would normally do. And then I'm going to come in with my tweezers, which again, I think a thinner tweezer would have been better here. And another thing, I'm attempting to remove these 2 at a time. It's a much better idea to remove them 1 at a time. But as you can see, my first attempt to pull it up, and it pulled up perfectly, very crisp lines, very easy to pull up. My second one, I'm going with this neon-y peach color, and it is killing my camera. It is way more peach than it looks. It's very washed out on the camera because it's freaking the camera out. Again, I'm going to apply a very thick coat, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. It left a little bit in the middle because I didn't apply the two back to back like I should have, but that's very easy to just come in with a little bit of white polish and like it never happened. And then I'm going to use this really cool violet color on my ring finger and these really cute wavy patterns. And the look I'm going for, if you haven't figured it out now, is Easter eggs, because it is the Easter season. So I'm going for kind of an abstract Easter egg, or not so abstract really, Easter egg design. And again, here I'm pulling up both at the same time, and you saw that one of them broke. This particular design is a little thinner in the middle, and I think if I had gone one by one, I would not have broken it, and definitely could have reused that particular one. And again, user error with my tweezers. I took a chunk out of that purple, but I came in with a little detail brush and fixed it all up just like new. And on my pinky, I'm going to be using YOLO Yellow, which is the Simple Colors, kind of a pale sunshiny orange, or orange yellow, pale sunshiny yellow. And I'm going to do a thick coat of that. And then I'm going to pull up. Come on, have I not learned? There we go. One at a time, one at a time. But I was trying to pull up two at a time like you saw. And again, very crisp. So all of the designs, all of them pulled up very crisply. So I'm going to use that same pattern that I used on my middle finger. I'm going to reuse that stencil. And then I'm going to be using this Full for Azul on my thumb. Again, a thick coat of that. And you may have to take special care to look at the bottom and the sides of those stencils to make sure that you're not going to leave any empty spaces. And I noticed that with every time you use the particular design, it does get a little bit weaker, so I probably would limit the use of each stencil to maybe 2 or 3 times. But you can see when I pulled it up, it still adhered to the nail very well. Now it looks like I pulled up a piece of my base coat. I did not. What ended up happening there was I did not place that stencil down when I took it off the first nail. I didn't place it down on somewhere that was really, really clean. I think there must have been a flake of polish from another design that got picked up on there. So all I did was take a little bit of acetone remover and just remove that spot, and then I put a little dab of white polish in there. And when you put on your top coat, it's really not going to even be seen. And then I decided on that middle nail and the thumbnail, what I was going to do was add dots of color, the same colors that I used on the other nails in the middle. So all I'm doing is dotting those colors on my middle nail and my thumbnail. And I didn't catch all the dots on camera, but you get the idea of what it's supposed to look like. And then I'm going to add a fast dry top coat. Now I'm going to add fast dry top coat the same way that I would when I was stamping, which means I'm going to put a huge dollop on my nail and try not to drag it, just because I don't want any of that polish to smear. And as you can tell, I'm avoiding my middle and my thumbnail to the very end because I added those dots and they can be a little bit thicker, and I was really afraid they were going to smear. So as I am finishing adding my top coat, I just wanted to give you my final thoughts on the stencils. I think that they are fantastic for the price in particular. I think they're great stencils. They're really easy to work with. Obviously, you can tell I am new to stencils, and they were very easy for me to work with. I was really blown away by how nice they turned out. In fact, I decided to do a different design on my thumb using some of the nail tip stencils, and I love how that one turned out. I'm kind of sad I didn't get it on camera, but I think they're a fantastic product. I definitely do recommend them. I will link it below, as I said, and I want to thank La Cosedora for sending it to me. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys for watching and spending your time with me. Thanks, and I will see you next time. Bye.